visitors, don't worry. The first row we don't bite. So if you don't mind, you can. Yeah. No, you don't, Emil. You're like 7 feet tall, but the rest, like, I don't mind sitting here, but come on in. Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, Manu. Thank you. Thanks, Luke. So nice of you. So welcome to the MonteVIDEO Tech Day. It's we were supposed to do just like a matter talk as we did last year, but we had so many talented people coming over that we said we could do only one thing. Like, there's so much knowledge and experience in the room, why not leverage it? So we're gonna have 3 sessions today, 3 groups. The first is gonna be these panel, and it's gonna be behind the screens, who creates the players we love. We have the answer here, I think. And Nico is gonna moderate this panel, in which we're gonna have Vanessa, Henry, Hef, and Casey. They all have a lot of experience working in players or client-side applications from different angles, so I hope you enjoy it. Afterwards, we're gonna have 3 presentations. I think we're gonna have Scott. Where's Scott? Here, Scott. We're gonna have Ian, and we're gonna have Luke making presentations. And then we're gonna have a matter talk that we're renewing our panelists because the new year starts. And we're gonna talk about what's going on with the streaming and sports. Thankfully, we have Peter Scott. Yeah, he only has like 25 years of experience in streaming and sport. We have Alex Zambelli. We have Connie. We have David. And who else am I missing? Who else was in the matter talk that I'm not seeing? I'm missing someone, I guess. Matter talk? No, did I name all of them? Oh, and Casey. Yeah, sorry, he was here. That's why I was not seeing him. And Casey, yeah. So that's gonna be, if we do everything on time, we should be ready by, we should be done by 8:30. But we're in Piso 40, and the sunset's over there. And we know it's gonna happen at 8-ish. It should happen like 7:53. So we're gonna pause the matter talk maybe for 3 minutes so everyone can go take their pictures, and then we're back. Because we know everyone wants their sunset picture. Or if not, we can ask someone to take a nice picture and share it. It's gonna be the same picture for everyone. But don't worry, we're gonna be mindful about it. That said, thank you everyone for being here. Thanks for the audience, if we have any in the streaming. And let's kick off with the panel. You go, Nico.
Thank you. Is this working? Yeah, sweet. First time doing a panel. Let's see how it goes. Yeah. Who else is first time in a panel here? Nice. So great. Today we are talking about who creates the players we love. And you may know what is summer camp now that you're leaving the summer camp. So summer camp is not just we are not a technical conference. We are not, I don't know, it's just the projects. Maybe it's more like an experience and something where we learn, when we learn together, we gather together, learn from each other, and just, you know, meet each other. And that was the thing we were talking about today. It's like, hey, do we really know the people behind the applications we love, behind the players and stuff? It's just maybe if we want to know better technical stuff or whatever, we can go to DMAX, and that's where the content is. But do we really know who is Casey, for example, and what he does? I don't know if you know. I'm going just to present this beautiful panel here. It's just a tiny presentation. Or you want to present yourself? What do you think about? Do you want me to present you?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. So we have Casey. Have you ever, for example, played EA Sports? He worked there. For example, he's from the Flash era. Yes.
Yeah, no.
Yes, from the Flash era. And now, yeah, and a lot of things happen, and now you're, let me search for, I want to say it well and not say whatever. So you're principal engineer at Paramount.
Yes.
So long time from EA Sports.
A very long time.
Yeah.
15 years?
That's great.
Yeah, so. But video players for now another 15.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. Then we have Steve. Yeah, he's the creator man because, yeah, one of the creators of Vue.js, Max, and the beautiful ladies that are on the summer camp, you know? Yeah, your kids. The joy of the summer camp, of course. So you're the creator.
The creator of my kids, yes.
So, yeah. Then we have Vanessa. Yeah, also works at daily, daily. So maybe you know something about data moshing? Heard about it? Heard about Laserdisc or something like that? If you remember, and then, oh, I watched that Dmax talk. There you have it. Oh, yeah. And Henry, our robot. Yes. Because, for example, his hand is his key. And that's true. Yep, he has a lot of stuff. So it's the robot over here, and the man at Vimeo, who also creates beautiful players for us. So that's the tiny introduction, or long introduction. But yeah, the idea is to start talking about mostly, hey, wait, how do you get into players, into video? Maybe, I don't know, you can start.
Sure. By accident. That's my answer. Like you said, I was a Flash guy. That's what I loved in the early 2000s into maybe the mid 2010s. Absolutely loved doing visual kind of coding, and that was the easiest way to do it, at least back in that time. JavaScript, as it just wasn't powerful enough to do the stuff that it does today, although ActionScript is just JavaScript. ActionScript 3 is TypeScript, and we can all talk about that later. And so, yeah, working at EA, using Flash to develop interfaces, and moved on into the more coding side of things, making component libraries and all this other things that Flash was doing towards the end of its run. When I finally got into Akamai, is actually where I got into video. They were hiring Flash developers. I didn't even know who Akamai was. I had just moved to San Francisco. I just needed a job. They needed Flash developers. And funny enough, Will Law interviewed me. He asked me what an HTTP request was, if I could break it down in my interview. And I said, oh yeah, you just you enter the URL in the search bar and you hit enter. And that's an HTTP request. I knew nothing about the back end at all. So that's really where I got pulled into video players. And what is a modern video player as far as how difficult it is, and not necessarily difficult, but how many pieces there are nowadays. It used to be you point a video file at your player and you play it, and that was it. And there's just so much more to it now. So from Flash, and then as Flash died, it was self-preservation to move to HTML5 and just keep my job. So
that's great, man. So yeah, that's long story. You find that. And so then you ended up at Paramount.
Yeah, actually, I worked with Dan Sparazio, who was also at Akamai at the time, working on back-end stuff. Came from the Flash media server side of things, so Flash was a real big driver of video on the web, and
yeah.
I'm now interviewing people who have never heard of it before, which makes me feel very old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember like the time Flash versus Silverlight.
Yeah, I managed to dodge Silverlight bullet completely, but yeah. So so then Dan eventually brought me over to Paramount.
So what years are we talking about? How long have you been in the industry?
I started in '99. I worked at EA for 5 or 6 years in the early 2000s and jumped around a bunch, and then I was Akamai for 10, and I think I'm in my 5th year at Paramount now. Quite a while.
A lot of time, man. Yeah. Great. Have you ever played around with Vue.js or something like that?
Yes.
Oh, that's the guy.
Yes.
Oh, what a coincidence.
it's worth saying that Casey built something like on par with Video.js just for Akamai, and I've told this story too many times, but we regularly showed up at conferences and just had conversations around how we were building the exact same thing side by side, and that's how we became friends in the industry, commiserating over solving the same problems.
Making a Flash player that acted like an HTML5 element was the first thing that everybody tried to do, and so we separately made the same thing because the API was the same, so didn't have many choices.
Oh, that's right. So Steve, how did you get into this mass of players?
Cool. Yeah. I mean, also by accident. I think that's probably going to be a common theme, I would imagine. I don't think anybody really chooses to get into the complexity of the video player world. But you go back. I think I built my first web page in 1994, back when I was in high school, and like this was probably not long after like the image element was added to browsers. Like there was no credit cards, there was nothing like that. It was just like early internet, and I just remember it being like a magical place. I remember learning HTML at a university, then going back home and being able to pull it up on my own computer and just being like blown away by the idea that anybody in the world could pull up this page. And like now we kind of take that for granted, but like that just kind of got me hooked on the web. And so, it was a side project for a long time, and then interned at my school webpage, and then after I graduated, I worked on the school's like marketing website for a while, and they wanted to do like video case studies, like video reels of students and their experiences to kind of help other students get excited about the college I was at, and so they needed a video player, they needed a whole video system. This was before YouTube, and so like it landed on my plate to build like YouTube for this university back in like 2004, and like
easy.
Yeah, easy, right? It's like and so like this is the time of Flash and Flash video, and I don't know if a lot of people remember this, but like with Flash, there was no default controls for the video. You had to build all of the UI from scratch. And so I remember in 2004 going to a conference, a big conference put on by lynda.com called Flash Forward. And it was like the big like gathering of like Flash developers, and it was amazing. Like I was a young like technologist at like this big cool conference, and it was just a really cool experience. I remember learning how to build video player controls from a guy named Robert Reinhardt, who's still in our industry writing papers, and so I still bump into him sometimes. So that's super cool. But I took that back, built a video player from scratch with what he taught. Learned how to encode video at like using, a Mac that we had in the corner of the office that I would like set to encode video overnight, because that's how long it took to encode videos to different formats, and then just kind of like bootstrap my way to learning the video world. And then, it just kept coming up in my career. Video kept coming up in my career. Like after that, I worked at a development shop where we were building applications for other companies, and everybody just kind of wanted to do something with video, and it was just a hard problem that just kept needing to be solved. Especially around that time, like there's a lot of companies trying to be the HD YouTube. There's like 50 companies that like around 2008 that were trying to be the HD YouTube, and then YouTube became the HD YouTube, and they all went away like overnight. But so like the main problem we got tasked to solve, me and my co-founders of our first startup, Zencoder, was transcoding in the cloud. Because the cloud was new, and it was like a more efficient way to scale up transcoding. And so we built this product called Zencoder. We sold one version of like installable software that was terrible, and we had to return the money for that one. So then we built another version, partnered with a company called On2 Technologies, who's the company behind VP8, VP9, like the team behind AV1, that crew. And we were able to make a nice API around video transcoding in the cloud. Went through the Y Combinator program, which requires you to move to Mountain View for 3 months as part of the program. So me and my 3 co-founders moved there and rented a house in the middle of the redwoods, like in Los Gatos, like up in the hills. Like take a small road to a small road to a smaller road to get there, and just totally secluded. besides us and the banana slugs and wild turkeys that were out there. But my co-founders had family and kids, and I did not at the time. And they would go home like to their families nearby on the weekends and just leave me by myself up in this like secluded in the middle of the woods. And one of these weekends, I was just bored and decided to hack on HTML5 video and see if I could create the same controls I had in HTML and CSS. Because again, I was super excited about the web platform and HTML, but Flash had always been the only way to do video really up to that point. And so took the weekend. By the end of the weekend, I'd created the basic controls. I made a tutorial of like, here's how you build controls. And like that tutorial got a little bit of traction. So I spun that into a library at videojazz.com, and Daring Fireball, if you remember, like that's a news site. They picked it up, and they said something along the lines of like, look at this video player, it already supports WebM, which was kind of funny because like it only supported WebM because Chrome supported WebM. I didn't have to do anything to support WebM, but like that's why they thought it was exciting. And I remember that weekend it got like 30,000 hits to videojazz.com, and like I remember thinking like, oh my god, like that's like half of a baseball stadium or something like that. And just like blew my mind that like that many people like came and looked at my site. And so yeah, we just kept putting effort into it, and then it just kept going from there. So I'll stop there. But yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, totally. Like create something and see how community people or users start to, getting that is whoa, it's amazing. So
I'm super excited to follow that up.
yeah. Each one has its own story. Don't tell me by accident.
By accident? Oh,
Did
how
you
did
just-
I fall in
yeah.
love with? Well, no, I would say it was on purpose for me. I studied art. Excuse me. I went to art school, and the name of my department was literally called Film, Animation, and Video, or FAV for short. So I've always loved video, and recently I've been having a bit of a renaissance of silly projects that I've made like years and years ago, and I was reminded when I was asked to be on this panel about one that I made called Get User Media _play, because I'm really good at naming things. And it was literally just me trying to mess around and play with like WebRTC and like basic gum calls, and I made a funhouse mirror. So it took the video and converted the data to canvas, and then the canvas moves around, and then there's also a filter, like a bunch of silly CSS filters. It's the ugliest thing that I've ever made in my life, and it was so much fun to work on. And I think I want to make some point about emphasizing like the play in players. Like, sure, they are definitely like a pain in the ass. There are so many edge cases. There's so much detail and minutia in it, but also it's fun. Like you were saying, the first time you saw what you had written in university, like at home, and you got like a little burst of like endorphin hit, and we're all just chasing that high. Like something got us excited, and then we just want to keep doing that. And I don't know. That's my 2 cents. Yes, right? Great.
And how did you end up doing all your DMAX presentations? It's like you're very famous. Yes, you are.
So okay, I will accept fame, but I will credit COVID and the pandemic. I actually had I just started working at Daily during COVID. I think I started in May of 2020, which was kind of a dark time, and I'd never heard of Demuxed. One of my coworkers posted like, "Hey, this conference is looking for submissions." And, I was alone, not seeing anyone. I thought, I'm sure I could figure out something to do. I'm still new at my company. Maybe there's a way that I can use this as an opportunity to explore some of their technology. And, oh, yeah, I like old arcane media, so I have Laserdiscs and a Laserdisc player. And I don't know much about live streaming, so let's connect what I do know and I like with what I don't know and what I want to learn. So that's how that one came about, and the rest of them are similar.
And where did you get all the ideas, to play with laser discs, for example?
Because they're cool. A show of hands, who knows what a laser disc is? Cool.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised.
If you don't know what Flash is, yeah, you're definitely not going to know what laser discs are. To give you a visual, they're the size of a vinyl record. Everyone knows what a vinyl record is, though, right? Please, okay, thank you. Like 12-inch long, but they look like a giant CD, and they're optical media, and they're analog video and sometimes digital sound, and they're fascinating. They're super impractical. I don't know. They're weird and quirky, and I have no words to express why Laserdisc. I don't know.
It's like
why
when
not?
I remember
Why
when I
not
saw the talk, I
Laserdisc?
say, "Whoa, what a random idea! It should be great."
Totally.
Great, thank you. And Henry, so accident? It was taught?
It's a tale you've heard 100 times. It was a targeted Instagram ad in probably about 7 years ago that pretty directly correlates to me being in this room now. I was using my biology degree and working in pharmacovigilance. It sounds great if I explained it, but it was high-stress data entry. I hated it. It was no creative outlet. And I saw an Instagram ad for a coding boot camp. And I said, let me give it a shot. And this was a full-stack coding boot camp, and I took that after hours. I was in person, so I'd work, and then I'd go there to this hotel ballroom for 3-4 days a week. And I did that, and I would talk to anybody, people in line at the grocery store. I would say, I want to be a software engineer. It's just it was all I could think about. I fell in love from the moment I picked up an IDE. And a friend of a friend of a friend at work knew a video legend, Flavio, who probably most of us here know. And I ended up getting in contact with him and asking for advice on how to get in to the industry. I said, I want to be a software engineer in New York City. He said, well, you need to move to New York City. So did that. So did that. And then I said, okay, now what? He said, start going to video dev meetups. So I started going to the MonteVIDEO Tech NYC meetups, and I go to, grab a beer with people, go to the meetings, do whatever I could, just asking people how to get in. It took about 9 months, and then Flavio introduced me to some people at CBS Sports, and eventually got my first gig there. I knew of Casey, but we never got to work together. So I started working there, and it was really fun. My dad worked at CBS for 20 years. He started as a security guard in 1979 and left as VP of Affiliate Relations in '89.
Whoa.
Which is one of those American dream stories that is incredible. So he passed about 12 years ago, and part of the reason I wanted to move to New York was to follow in his footsteps metaphorically. And one of the last things I did at CBS was upgrade the CentOS versions on some elemental encoders. And it was in the broadcast center where he was a security guard. So I found myself metaphorically and physically following his footsteps. It was really cool. And at CBS, I was working kind of tangentially around video, but wasn't really working with video. And I sent a message to one of my now colleagues, Quentin, on LinkedIn, and I said, okay, I'm working around video, but how do I get to do real video? And he checked me right there, and he said, I said, I'm working a lot of JavaScript stuff, I'm working in the front end, I want to do real video stuff. And he said, there's a lot of real video work in the front end. And that one sentence changed my whole outlook. I love JavaScript, I love TypeScript, I love that world. And he said, you can leverage that in the video world, and obviously that's a very natural progression into playback work, video players. I applied around everywhere for places like Vimeo. And my first interview with my now boss's boss, Matt, he asked me what I knew about video playback. And I said, I'm going to be completely honest, nothing. and he,
Just like the get.
yeah.
URL.
And he said, I was wondering how you're going to answer that question, because I looked at your CV and you have nothing. So I think that the brutal honesty really paid off there. And he took a chance on me, like, you know, so many other people that have helped me get here. Oh yeah, I got to jump back a little bit. In Quentin's message where he recommended that I, you know, leverage my JavaScript experience, he said there are tons of open source projects out there, HLS.js or Video.js, that you should look into and learn from. And, you know, it's the whole standing on the shoulders of giants trope. It really paid off. So.
Amazing. I got emotional, to be honest. Really. So I'm the guy. Yeah. So I have a superpower here, like it's a microphone, but maybe you want to ask something now that you know the stories. This is very improvised. I don't know. Someone wants to ask a question now that you know better this person here? If not, I can keep to my agenda.
Peter has one.
Yeah, I got one.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, so now with AI helping people code, and video sort of coding hasn't sort of gone down that path, do you feel like that will take over, or in some aspect, the blocking of that code will start to supplement video engineers today? And do you think one day, no offense, a software engineer for video may be replaced, not completely, but with video, and do you see that coming quicker? And then will that democratize more people coming into the space? Because now AI will allow people, maybe more people, to become video software engineers.
Yeah, I can start. Probably. So, you know, as an example, on Mediachrome, another one of Steve's great projects, we are looking into converting the code base from, you know, just JavaScript, TypeScript, not anything video related. And it was just I'm going to throw this at Copilot, ChatGPT, you know, and just see what it does, you know, because I know I've converted to code bases before. It's tedious, you know, it's doable, but it's just hand replacing stuff and renaming files and writing scripts to just do mass regexes and all this other stuff, and was actually quite pleased with, you know, what it spit out. It wasn't perfect. I'd have to go in and actually build and run it and you know, fix the edges and whatnot, but it did a fair amount of the job for me. And so I think that it's not quite there yet, but it's getting there. I've asked it to make HLS parsers, XML parsers, you know, I've been trying to, in my work on Common Media Library, at least start and see what the AI can do for us, you know, as far as consolidating it. Especially in the JavaScript sphere, it's mostly open source, all this code. And when it's not open source, it's clear text in a browser. It's not like you can hide it. And so I think whatever models, you know, have trained a lot on that kind of stuff. And so, again, it produced me an HLS parser, and it worked. It's not very efficient, you know, and there's all sorts of weird quirks about, you know, how different JavaScript engines handle, you know, objects in memory and, you know, stuff that you'd learn over the years, you know, to make more optimal JavaScript code. But it certainly can give you a start. I don't think it'll ever solve old TVs. And if it can, I will let it.
Yeah, similar. I really hope it replaces us very soon. I don't want to keep doing this work. No, but I think it will absolutely continue to like augment what we're doing. It's like, I think at a high level, as you think about like just customizing a player and building different themes around it, I think a lot of us are doing the work that like then will help AI help other developers build what they're trying to build at the layer of like React and UI and things like that. And then the deeper you go in the stack, that the harder the problems get, to where like I have a hard time believing anywhere in the near future that is going to like just replace anybody. Like, I mean, just looking at like stuff that Luke is working on, the media over quick side of things, like that's just really hard stuff to wrap your head around. I just don't think things out there there's enough out there for AI to train on to just kind of replace what Luke is doing, to replace some of the, like the alien math that's being done inside of the codec side of things. So I definitely see it augmenting and probably helping more engineers get into the space. But you know, different levels of the stack, it'll have different results.
Great. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Thank you. Great. So another thing I was just put on the script and share with you to see how it goes. We call that like the community and I, because you already mentioned some of the stuff like Media Work Quick, and you mentioned Common Media Library, Chrome, Media Chrome. So maybe not everyone knows what is that, and so I think it's a great place to explain why you're doing those open source projects and what are they and what that means for your career and stuff.
Okay.
Yes. Go for it.
Yeah, so my current open source project is Common Media Library. It is just sort of a loose collection of utilities that I have found while working on Dash.js, Shaka Player, and HLS.js. A lot of the code comes from open source players and is shared. And a lot of the time it was just literally a file was copied from one repo and put into the other type of deal, which is fine. But we're thinking about building another player. This might be my 6th, from scratch, and didn't want to have to write this stuff again. Didn't want to have to go through and, 608 should have been solved years ago, and it still lingers, and there's still, pieces that work here and pieces that don't work there. And so, yeah, the idea was to pull from those projects and do something open source. And me personally wanted to do something open source for many years. He was saying that we were on similar mindsets with players. The big difference is a lot of his stuff was open source and a lot of my stuff was closed source at Akamai or wherever I was working at the time. And I really just liked how quickly you could get a community and how quickly you could get people involved, and I can actually talk in public about this problem I'm trying to solve instead of having to come up with weird ways of not spilling some secrets. Again, it's all JavaScript, none of it's secret. But you know how that goes. So for me personally, it was just a good way to get out there and start contributing more, and trying my hand at running a project.
That's great. And how it's going?
I think it's going pretty well. We're took some time to get traction. It's not the most glamorous thing. It's not like it's not a player in its own right. It's a set of utility functions and just real sexy stuff. Awesome. Yeah, so it took a while to kind of to get the ball rolling, but I think now that we've gotten the code, basically we've pulled code out of the players, polished the utilities, wrote some better tests, and then got them imported back in there. And so now that they're actually in the wild, we've gotten more people coming to the monthly meetings that we hold, which is another thing of we're just trying to open it up and get. I don't want to recreate a player from scratch.
Right.
I don't want to solve some problem that somebody else has solved 100 times before. There's just no need for it nowadays.
Yeah.
So I think it's going pretty well.
Great. So join those calls.
Yes.
What about MediaChrom and all these things? What about that?
Yeah, I have too many open source projects. I think this is my open source is my default for better or worse. But I've given talks on a lot of these, so I won't spend too much time on them. But first of all, Video.js, I'm still on the technical steering committee of that, despite having Brightcove acquired my first startup, Zencoder, and along with it the trademark of Video.js. But Video.js is open source, so it's really a community-driven thing. Now with Brightcove being acquired, it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens in that space. But because it's open source, I'm not worried about the community side of it. But we'll kind of see. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, so still involved, but it's been a while since I've made a commit to Video.js, so I can't take any credit for kind of a lot of the forward progress. It's like Gary Katzman and some of the other contributors have carried that project And I'm still really proud of what the work they're doing there. Metachrome is UI components for a video player. Like, compared to Casey here, I live at the UI layer mostly and kind of a higher abstraction. The stuff that Casey works on really scares me, so I kind of stay away from that. And Metachrome is like half of a video player in the sense that it's just the UI components and tries to like separate the hard underlying stuff of video streaming from the UI and like visual and customization side of it. And so that's going pretty well. We've got a lot of good users of it, good contributors to it, and yeah, would love any other involvement from people who are interested. Built on Metachrome is a project we released called player.style, which is kind of just coming at video players from a different angle. Like, you go to like videojs.com and you see like one player with like one theme, and almost nobody ever changes that theme. Like the 99.9% of VideoJess installs are just the default theme, which is really kind of disappointing to me because I put a lot of effort into making it like what I thought was really stylable, and then nobody really did much with that. And so player.style is kind of like a reaction to that, where it's like, okay, here's a lot of different themes, like choose from them. And the goal there is to create lots and lots of different themes so that people can kind of start by picking a player from what they see first, kind of like visual shopping for a video player versus like shopping for features and stuff. So we'll see. It's kind of an experiment, but it's been a fun one, and Qual Labs has contributed some themes to it, and that's been super cool.
And we will see a demo tomorrow.
We'll see
so
demo.
Wait for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. And so, Vanessa, I think you are the only one here maybe representing more the WebRTC stuff, probably?
That's a lot to ask for to represent.
But I think that what I have heard, it's a yes.
Yes.
So I want to understand what kind of challenges, because these guys already told us like all the challenges of UI and stuff. They are moving on the common media library and stuff. So what about WebRTC? What is the things that are coming, or it's, the things UI and applications are now getting challenges into?
So I was told there'd be no questions on WebRTC, and this is definitely not the question that I prepared for.
Oh, don't worry.
It's
It's about user interface.
But yeah, I do have strong opinions about user experience and user interfaces. And
About that.
not to pick on you, Steve, but when you said that most people would install the player with the default settings for it, we have to have like a shared understanding of how a player works, and if the icons are exactly in the same place and they look exactly the same, that's probably what you're gonna put in front of your mom, your grandma, your dad, your little 4-year-old nephew. Like, it's not just about, oh, why is no one MySpacing my video player and like customizing it to the max, which is super cool, but it's very individualistic, and it makes sense to you, and it works on this one screen or this one platform, but it might not be a ubiquitous experience for other people. I would say personally, it really kind of irks me when I encounter something and I don't know how to interact with it, and someone explains it to me like I'm the idiot. I'm like, I don't know, I couldn't figure it out. So like whoever made it clearly failed me. I didn't fail to understand how to interact with this player or how to work with this media. Maybe the person who put it in front of me could have thought about the different experiences that people would have in interacting with it. How does that flow?
Also because sometimes we only think about players, about VOD content, or I think you have other kind of challenges because they are real time. You can do other things, And is there a one-size-fits-all solution for that kind of stuff?
There's no one-size-fits-all solution for anything, period, end of stop. But there are different use cases. So I'll put myself out there and say, like, I don't know how to use Zoom. I don't know where the things are that like everyone knows how to use because I use daily exclusively. It's pretty awesome, and it's just what everyone I work with uses, and it's what I use to talk to my friends and everything. So on the occasions that I am invited to a Zoom call and I have to interact with that interface, I feel like very like much an outsider, and I'm like, I don't know how to turn on my camera. I don't know how to do this or that, but I'm very used to Daly's interface or like Google Hangouts or something else. Like they're all a little different, and there's uses for each of those. But all right, the wheels are coming off the wagon in terms of what I'm trying to explain here. But basically, you don't know where what people's experiences are, like what they're bringing to their when they log on or when they try to play something. It could be their first time touching a like computer. How do you make that easy for them to like intuitively figure out? I don't know. What if we didn't all know that like the triangle means play?
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be obnoxious to try and communicate. This is a play button. If we didn't all agree, triangle, right? Okay, cool. We're all in the triangle. Anyway.
Sometimes it's like, yeah, we need to understand better the user. It's like,
Exactly.
sometimes just we give by granted that it's going to work or something like that.
My kids figured out the play button real fast, though. I'll say that.
Awesome.
And Henry, what about future projects? Because you were involved in the MonteVIDEO project about They Were Quick. So, what do you think about the project and the future, and what's the things you are going to work with? I guess you are going to start with IETF. You told me something like that. What's the future for you now that you have played with this?
Yeah, I think getting to work on Media Over Quick was an incredible opportunity the past couple months. It's something that really is championed by Luke right here, and we got to spend the past 3 months working as a team on a fork of your fork. And the whole kind of the baseline idea of this whole thing is that WebRTC is really annoying to work with, and it's never scorned me personally. I do HLS live streaming, but getting involved with this project and working on this like open source standard, it feels like I'm in the room as like maybe HLS was being developed. That was well before my time. I was still using my biology degree when that was being hashed out. But getting in early, and I'm watching the sausage get made, and seeing the spec change, and I got to write my first like Rust PR a couple days ago, and it really just opens up so many doors. And so one of the fun things I got to work on in this project was bumping the draft version from 5 to 6. Again, very sexy stuff. But it was so much fun, and I got to learn so much about the transport layer of video delivery, which is just something I really hadn't thought too much about, and really learned the spec. And then talking with Mike English, he said, "Why don't you start coming to the working group meetings? Just come, hang in the wings." And so it's opening up these much bigger doors, with these much bigger brains. So I hope to just continue staying involved and seeing where it leads to. And right now it's not a part of my day-to-day, but and it might not be a production-ready product until 5 years from now. And then in 5 years from now, I'll have 5 years experience with it. Mm-hmm. So it's you don't have to use it to start learning it, and you can start kind of talking the talk and then walk the walk as you go.
Awesome, guys. Well, I think we have to close because it's time. I don't know if you want to say something else or just one question? Just one from the public? If not?
Any recommendations for the audience on how to get into these open source projects?
That's a good one.
Young minds.
Go to meetups. Go to as many meetups as you can. Introduce yourself. Talk to people in line at the grocery store. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, don't be afraid to just submit an issue. Even if you just say hi. Like, I think that you feel like a barrier between yourself and stepping out there and like just communicating with the project owner. And on the other side of it is just a human like yourself that like needs help. I guarantee you, like every open source contributor, like every open source maintainer needs help. So, like, don't be afraid to just submit an issue and just say you're interested.
Yeah, and I would second the go to the meetings thing, because that was a big one for me. I'd been submitting PRs to the various player projects, and you know, nothing comes across clearly on text, you know, contextual stuff. And so being able to actually talk to Rob on HLS and be like, this is why I did that. And he's like, no, I understand. I just, you know, I had to push back. And it's like, okay, like, you know, I probably would have done the same thing. And just those conversations in those rooms, I mean, that's kind of where CML started, at least for me. So get out there, meet the other video people. Come to MonteVIDEO, everybody at home.
I'll just throw in there, give a Demux talk on an open source project that you probably have no business doing. So no, I'm just kidding. But to your point about it doesn't only have to be code and a PR. Yeah, issues, reviewing other PRs in GitHub, and also documentation, making it easier for other people to get involved is definitely part. That's a way to contribute. It doesn't only have to be code. And it's a good first way to get involved, especially with documentation. Yeah.
It's a real good way to make a friend.
Totally.
Seriously, anybody that wants to manage some issues in CML, please come talk.
Great. Thank you so much.
And just a real quick thank you to Qual Labs for putting this together. This has been an amazing experience for me and my family. Like, just awesome. Thank you all.
Come to Uruguay.
Yeah.